UnderMine is one of my favorite games of all time. Since I've put so many hours into the game, I've become quite good at it. With this, I want to make the game harder, and there's a couple ways of doing that. The way I decided on was by removing jumping. The main problem caused by this is making it harder to dodge enemy attacks, since jumping in UnderMine is the main source of dodging. And another thing as well is it can make some rooms harder to navigate. To prevent myself from jumping, I just rebind the jump key. Now it's time to get into the actual challenge. The first part of this challenge will be the tutorial. I'm able to talk to Arcanos, grab the key and journal, then enter the mines like normal. Although heading down into the mines is where the real challenge begins, because the first room you encounter wants you to jump. Now I did try a couple ways to cross the gap, one of which included trying to walk along the edges, but that didn't work. The other way was by getting a game over from taking damage in the pit, which I hope would have let me skip the tutorial, but that also didn't work. So it looks like I need to jump here, but I actually don't. The way past this room is by using a glitch. All you need to perform this glitch is another save file that has defeated all of the main bosses. To perform the glitch, go into the completed save and walk into the room to the left. While the screen is scrolling to the left, pause the game and quit to the menu. If done correctly, there should be a character that appears in the middle of the menu. Then you need to go and select the save you want to complete without jumping. Now you're probably wondering why this glitch is helpful, and it is because it gives the player a random whip item set. Some of these items can be used to cross the gap. This character doesn't have anything useful, so I return to the menu to redo the glitch. The only thing I do differently is change my seed on the completed save file before I do the glitch. After a while of doing the glitch, I get a character that is capable of crossing the gap. This is called bomb boosting and is one of the main ways to cross gaps without jumping. After that, I'm able to complete the rest of the tutorial like a normal run. When I reach the second floor, I leave to the main menu and rejoin in order to get my UI back. After getting my UI back, I can see that my familiar is Phoenix instead of a canary. The hex I have is blasphemy, which doesn't affect me at all. Finally, the 48 bombs and impish key bomb means that getting Keyblade would be really good. I rescue Wayland, whose upgrades are going to be required for this run. To progress farther, I need to defeat the rock pile mimic, which was done quickly and easily. I rescued Dodson, but since he's mainly used for upgrading bomb damage, he would make this run actively harder. The next fight was against Celt, and it did take longer than normal, but it still wasn't too hard. The next fight was against Celt, and it did take longer than normal, but it still wasn't too hard. Two changes are that I need to walk around her spinning attack instead of jumping over it, and when she summons the rocks around you, I gotta break them instead of jumping out of them. With Celt defeated, I grab the key and move on to the dungeons. On the first floor of the dungeons, I talk to the shopkeeper to get the loyalty rewards program. On the third floor of the dungeons, I meet Tush, and after giving him half of my gold, he ends up offering me Keyblade, which I definitely take. The next upcoming boss is Mortar, and for this challenge, he's going to be one of the hardest bosses. This comes from the attack that requires you to jump over the beam. The two ways of dealing with it are either tanking it or dealing enough damage to destroy the orbs. On this run, I chose to fight Mortar because I know I could destroy the orbs easily with Keyblade. The fight against Mortar went well. The real challenge was actually getting into the halls. The bridge has two gaps that need to be crossed, which leads to an average health cost of 120 to 140. Luckily right now I have antimatter, so I can negate some of the damage. In the halls I do the library fight in order to unlock familiars. The next major event is fighting Nori. Nori is a challenging boss for regular new save runs, and that was the same here. The hands she summons are hard to dodge, but not impossible. Getting unlucky with the orb and lasers could mean that you can get hit without being able to do anything about it. Even with Keyblade, this fight marked the first death of the run. With the first run over, I want to take some time to explain how I am going to beat the challenge. The plan is basically getting enough upgrades combined with a lucky run. This time in the hub, the upgrades I bought were some basic stat boosts along with glasses and gecko's foot. Going into the second run, I do not plan on beating the game, but I do have a couple of goals I'd like to get accomplished. One is to free Lilith and the other is to make it to the caverns. Freeing Lilith is to unlock altars, and making it to the caverns is just for more gold. Starting the run, I meet Black Rabbit, who will not be of any consequence to this run. On the second floor of the gold mines, I find float boots. In the context of this challenge, float boots are by far the best relic. In the dungeons, I'm able to use my float boots to talk to Lilith and start the quest that lets me free her. On the next floor, I fight the gargoyles and get the key to Lilith's cell. On the third floor of the dungeons, I free Lilith and finally unlock altars. When it came to the final floor of the dungeons, I decided to skip Mortar this time because I didn't have enough damage to take him on. Also, since I have float boots, I don't lose any HP when crossing the bridge. The next major milestone in the challenge is when I get to the end of the halls again. This time, instead of fighting Nori, I decide to do the Horde fight. The Horde fight went well, so I end up making my way into the caverns. Making my way through the caverns, I do come across Pet Rot. I am unable to put on the altar, but I still thought it was neat. When I made it to the final floor of the caverns, I decided to skip the boss once again and enter the core by paying gold. The core is nice because it's the area in the game where you could get the most gold, but it's also one of the hardest areas for this challenge. This is mainly due to three enemies, which are base flies, gremlins, and rift worms. Base flies are annoying because of their bouncing ranged attack. Gremlins are annoying because they have their charge attack, and rift worms are just rift worms. First floor I encounter in the core has 6 base flies, which leads me to losing 50 HP. I end up making it to the second floor but die due to some gremlins. In the hub, I end up swapping my familiar to Canary to get more gold. The upgrades I buy are Gecko's other foot, a food voucher, and more basic stat upgrades. With the upgrades bought, I start the third run. I'll end up skipping most of the early floors because they are easy at this point. I will mention some of the good relics I got, like Battle Standard, Intensifier, and Float Boots. With that said, I am back into the core because I skipped Nori and Panzu again. Finally, I made it to Seer. Now, Seer is normally one of the game's easier bosses, and that still remains true for this challenge. Both of her attacks are easy to dodge. Her attack where she shoots out the bouncing orbs is harder to dodge, but if you stay near the edge of the arena, it becomes manageable. For meteors, you just need to move in a straight line. With the explanation done, I ended up beating her on my first try. Now, this doesn't mean the challenge is over because I still need to defeat Nori, Panzu, and Din. Using the 100k gold I got from the run, I end up buying multiple upgrades. The upgrades are mainly shop upgrades, candles, salt and pepper shakers, and more basic stat upgrades. After buying the upgrades, I hop into the mines for what I would hope to be my last run. Now I'm just going to skip straight to Nori and Panzu. I already explained how Nori works, so I'll just say that I was able to defeat her easily now thanks to my upgrades and relics I had. The Panzu fight was definitely one of the hardest fights in the challenge. This is partly because she is typically the hardest out of the 5 main bosses. The main challenge of the fight is the enemies summoned by Panzu. Most of Panzu's attacks can actually be dodged just by staying on the edges of the arena. The only attack that can hit you on the edges of the arena is the attack where she lobs a ball of crystals at you. I end up beating Panzu and go on to complete the run. When I get back to the hub, I end up using my gold to buy a couple more upgrades before I fight the final boss. When it comes to fighting Arcane Osa, attacks where he summons orbs are easy to dodge just by walking away from them into the edge of the arena. The attack where he summons a circle under you is hard to dodge and can end up getting you hit a good couple of times. The timing to dodge it is strict, so you need to be walking in a direction while he's summoning it. I beat Arcanos, then get to fight Din afterwards. Overall, the fight against Din was probably the most interesting one in the entire challenge. The attacks from Din's hands are easy easy to dodge. The lasers summoned from Din's crystal do a good amount of damage and it's undodgeable. You can fall off the edge during this attack, however, to lower the damage you take to 20 from falling instead of 80 from the crystal beams. The summoned pylons can be destroyed pretty quickly and don't do too much damage. Also, the healing from Bath Cat really helps out during this fight. After about 2 minutes, I'm able to defeat Din and finally call the challenge completed.